Good morning, everyone. This morning I'm going to go ahead and make a video that's going to dealing with databases and how to read, write, and update material within the database. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new project. Let's go ahead and name this database activity. Once you've done that, go and say finish. Okay, once everything is completed, the first thing we're going to do, like normally, is we're going to go ahead and run it just to make sure everything is working correctly. And as you can see, we've got our hello world, so everything looks like it is working correctly. So let's go ahead and close that down. Now what I want to do is go and make a database handler. And basically what the database handler is responsible for is for handling all the different queries and things that we're going to use to communicate with the database. So let's go ahead and go under our Java folder. Go and right click. We're going to say new Java class. Again, I'm just going to call this one database handler. And then go ahead and click next. The first part is we just want to basically create our database. And so I'm going to add a couple different libraries because there are some libraries that are required for this. The first one I'm going to do is import my Android.content. And I'm going to load the content values. The other one to go to this is the import Android content. And this one here, we're going to do the context. And basically, these two are what we're going to utilize to get and store values for the data. If you remember from the PowerPoint presentation, basically our content is an object that we're going to be able to pass back and forth. The next one I'm going to do is I'm going to import Android dot. Now I'm going to add the database management tools. And the first one is my cursor. There we go. Once we have this, then we have to come down here and we're going to have to extend because we're going to need the assistance of the SQLite Open Helper to help manage the different tasks that we're going to need for the database. So we're going to extend the helper. Now notice it immediately put in a red line underneath everything. And the reason why is because it has to have some methods. So we're going to implement those methods. Now that we've got those installed, these are always going to be in the form of private, static, final. And the reason why we use final is because we don't want it to ever change. I'm just going to copy this. And the first one that we're going to do is the database. So we're going to set an int, and then we're going to call this database version. And we're going to set that equal to 1. Now you can set it to 0, whatever version you prefer. Next, I'm going to paste that out. We're going to set the name of the database. In this case, it's going to be a string that we're going to declaring. And we're going to call this one. We're going to call this one test.db. Then we're going to give the name of the table. Now inside of the database, you can have multiple names for a database, or multiple tables inside of a database. In this case, we're only going to create one table. And again, that's going to be a string. And I'm going to call this one user data. And now I'm going to add the items that we want to have in the table within itself. The first one is a string. We're going to call it the column ID. Next, we're going to give a name. And then finally, we're going to call this country. And there we go. So now we've declared basically our variables and information that we want to build this database. Now, if I come down here, we need to create the database within itself. We're going to call the SQL database, and we'll just call it database. And what this is the object, so that way we can pass back and forth to the database. Next, let's go and create our first method. That's going to help us with the database. So we're going to do public database handler. And if you can tell from those who had Java before, this is basically our constructor. In this situation, we're going to go ahead and call the context. Or what do we want in the constructor? Well, we want to go ahead and do the super, and we want to go ahead and put in context. We're going to pass in the database name. Then we're going to set null. Then the database version. And that's going to build our database. And then we take that object database and then we create it by utilizing the get writable database. Okay. Now this will actually build the database, but what we want to do is let's go ahead and get the information and set up the tables inside of that database as well. So on create, we're going to run an SQL query. So we're going to do db dot. And we're going to do EX because we want to execute an SQL query. So here we go. Create table plus the table name plus parenthesis. We only need one side of it at this point. And you'll see at the end, we'll go and add it at the end, the closing tag, plus the column ID. Now the column ID, what we're going to do for this one is we're going to set this as our primary key. Plus, now we're going to add the tables themselves, the other tables. Column name. Text. And basically the text is what kind of information are we putting in there. Plus column country plus, and then finally text, and then close our parenthesis. Okay. And then on upgrade, we're just going to go ahead and put db dot another SQL query. We're putting here drop table if exists. And then we're going to give it the table name itself so it knows exactly what it's looking for. Then do our onCreate DB. Now inside of our main activity, we need to, now that we're in here, now the first thing we need to do is let's go ahead and load our database handler. There we go. And then inside of here, do our database handler equals new database handler. And then we're just going to give it the context of this. Now, if we actually run the app, what we're hoping to see is, so we have the program up, it's now running. Now what I want to do is I want to go underneath my view, tools and windows, take a look at my device explorer. Inside of here, I'm going to go data, data, look for the package name that you created or the project name, database activity. Go ahead and open it up. Notice it says databases, and there's my database. This concludes this first part of the video.